Hi, and welcome back to the HE Enable podcast. This is the show all about sharing our experiences of disability, neurodivergence, and long-term health conditions in UK higher education. I'm Cath, and this week I am joined by Anna. Anna is a graduate from Cambridge, and the University of East Anglia, where she studied a BA in archaeology and an MA in the arts of Africa, Oceania, and the Americas, respectively. If you wonder why I booed, it's because I'm an Oxford graduate and a Cambridge reject, and I'm bitter.
It's a contractual requirement.
It is. I'm volunteering at the boat race tomorrow, and it's going to be chaos. It's as we record this, it's the 3rd of April, and the boat race is tomorrow, and I am volunteering, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, studied BA archaeology at Cambridge, MA of the arts.
The long-winded title.
MA in the arts of Oceania, Africa, Oceania, and the Americas. Great having you on the show today, Anna. Can't wait to get started. Please, can you just introduce yourself, I guess, a little bit? Because we've had a conversation, but the listeners don't know who you are. So please, can you just introduce yourself and share a little bit about your background in higher education?
Yeah, hi, I'm Anna. And like you said, I'm an archaeologist by study. And my focus was kind of on the intersection of disability and Indigenous heritages, particularly in the Andes for my MA. I'm currently an archives project assistant up in Norwich, so very different local history, but very fun.
Yes. Oh, is that why, with the Andes, is that why you sent me the Peruvian?
Yes.
Was it like Peruvian?
Moche.
Yes. Like little statuettes with like visible disabilities.
Yes.
It's incredible. If you have a link to that, I'll pop it in the description of the show. So, if you are comfortable saying, how did your disabilities, neurodivergence impact your experience of higher education? We'll get right into it today.
Yeah, so I knew I was autistic going in and that I had a well-managed nerve pain condition and probably something else going on that I didn't know what yet. But what really affected my undergrad was COVID hitting my first year. And I was high risk and also, unbeknownst to me, immunocompromised. So I shielded. So I had a very hybrid experience at Cambridge before I knew about all the good masks and protections like that. And then the week before I started my MA, I was told I had a blockage in my bowels that was either cancer or Crohn's. Luckily, it was Crohn's. And I started the MA and had surgery in the January, which unexpectedly I had an emergency stoma formed. So I once again had a hybrid experience recovering from surgery, but also managing post-surgery brain fog and admin with a very troublesome naughty stoma.
We'll break that down bit by bit. So you started at Cambridge in 2019.
Yes.
Yes. So we started undergrad in the same year. So I had friends who were locked down at Cambridge, but obviously I know that colleges are very insular, I guess is the best word to use.
Yes.
Did they let you lock down in college?
I chose to go home. My mum was a frontline NHS worker, and I wanted to be with her in case something did happen. And they were really supportive about that. It was never a question that I could access everything hybrid, both within my college and my department. So I was quite lucky there.
And then for the MA, I'm assuming 3-year bachelor's without a break, so it would have been 22?
I took a gap year, so I started in 2023.
Oh, okay, nice. So this was just kind of everything at once before the MA, but they were still very much out of COVID, because I know that I've had guests on the show before where they speak about they'll have done uni in COVID and then they'll come out of it and it will just be a very negative experience because they've moved out of hybrid or something like that. They cut remote learning in some unis after COVID ended in around that 2022-23 academic year. I know by 22, because I did a 2-year master's at Oxford, that was all in person, bar like 1 or 2 emergencies. So that was it's very good you got hybrid, actually, because that wasn't necessarily possible at that point in the world.
Yes, the director of the course at the time really wanted everyone to be back in person, but it wasn't as risky for me as some other courses because there was 8 of us. So it wasn't that big. And when people had COVID, I got COVID at the very start at the same time, so all the other stuff was going on. So they had their like owl set up still from COVID, like the main period, obviously still ongoing.
Yeah.
They had their little owl, and the very lovely but now mostly retired head did not know how to use it. So the librarian would come down and she'd come and help set him up on Teams with the little owl, and it was adorable. So whenever someone was ill, they set up the hybrid access, and it wasn't a big deal. It was really nice.
Yeah, what I feel like it should be, honestly. That's so lovely to hear. Do you think it was just because you were a small master's, or was it kind of standard practice in the uni?
I don't think it was standard at the uni. I could be wrong though, but my master's had a lot of autonomy. So the Sainsbury Research Unit, the department, is funded mostly by money related to the supermarket. So they had a lot of money. They were kind of insulated from all of like the financial crashes at UEA and things like that.
Yep.
And they had a lot of autonomy in their teaching and everything around it. So they've always just been a close-knit little group who are really eager to just help. So I think in general they were lovely and always willing to work around people. So this just came kind of naturally to them as something they would do now they had the technology.
That makes me so happy. It also makes me really happy to hear that Sainsbury's is just like building institutes. I don't know why, like I can just imagine it, like you walk in, it's like, please swipe your Nectar card for access. And it I know that's not how it works, but it just brings me joy.
Yeah, I go to Sainsbury's, and even though it's completely separate because this is the heirs of Sainsbury's, I'm like, I'm paying it back.
With that sweet, sweet discount and giving your data for market research. You make it work.
Exactly.
So obviously that was a very general overview of what uni was like. And obviously, so you would have, again, been like me, you would have sat, I'm assuming A-levels, I'm getting a nod, yeah, right before COVID. So you would have gone in and tried to access uni pre-COVID. So with that in mind, and if you have anything to add about UEA, go for it. What was your experience accessing higher education from a disability standpoint?
So I, in a very autistic way, did a lot of prep. I did a summer school at Cambridge, and UCL has a shadowing scheme where they pair you with a disabled student in your subject. And I had someone with ADHD, so we had quite similar kind of worries about the subject and things around access. So it was really great to chat to her. And they also let me have like in-depth chats with financial and disability support. Because at the time I was quite worried about public speaking and that being something that wasn't being accommodated for at universities. But UCL told me it was the law. Wherever I went, I had that backing with me, which was really nice. And I did get disabled students allowance as well, which hasn't been particularly helpful except for the printer. Love the printer. It's still going. But the most valuable thing for me was them being told I was entitled to university accommodation for my whole degree because I needed it for disability reasons. So that made me feel a lot more confident with kind of battles around getting reasonable adjustments in accommodation settings. I also disclosed to the uni as well that I approved my support document that October, but it wasn't until my college chased for me, because my chaser hadn't been answered, that it was sent out. But to be honest, I don't think anyone read it except for the exam adjustments. And I just had chats with the faculty throughout both of my degrees instead, which worked because they were all nice people. I got quite lucky there.
Yeah, so you would have been taught in your college anyway. And well, I guess there's some central lectures as like interesting, but your tutorials would have all been in college.
No.
What?
Archaeology's weird. Archaeology, there were 18 people in the whole course. So it was a lot easier for archaeology to centralize a lot of supervisions. So I say I got some of the best value for money that you can get at Cambridge because most of my supervisions were with the professors who taught the course.
Oh, that's, yeah. So for context, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Oxbridge system, usually a lot of the tutorials are done sometimes by the professors who run the course, sometimes lecturers, but oftentimes there's also a good chunk of graduate teaching assistants who are doing their PhDs, their DPhils, and they will hop in and do the teaching, kind of like how at other universities your seminar tutor might be a PhD student. It's the same thing. just tutorials in much smaller groups and less seminary. Out of curiosity, so we applied for Cambridge in the same year. One of us got luckier than the other. So you would have interviewed in person, right?
Yeah, I did.
What was that like for you? Was it good? Are they pretty accessible?
Yeah, I put in like that extenuating circumstances document beforehand. Funnily enough, Augusta, who I love, who became my director of studies in my final year, she didn't remember interviewing me. And bear in mind, I was the only person who interviewed for archaeology at that college that year.
What college were you?
Newnham.
Oh, so you're one of the women's colleges.
Yeah.
Ah, lovely.
But Sam Lucy, who's the head of all admissions at Cambridge, also interviewed me because she's a Newnham academic. And she's great at interviewing. It was amazing. I don't think I would have got in without Sam. Love her.
That's intense, though.
She didn't tell you that she was head of all of admissions.
Goodness.
She was just a nice lady showing me some Anglo-Saxon burials and was like, what do you think?
Oh, that's lovely. I was a Trinity for interview. And it was around Christmas. Yeah, I mean, I did the opposite of you where it was practically no prep. I was like, I'll do an Oxbridge and then I'll throw a dart at the rest of the country. I watched like a lot of technical difficulties. So like, I'll apply to York. York seems chill. Southampton's my nearest Russell group. UCL's in London. I think Winchester was my last option. It was like, if everything goes wrong, I'll go to Winchester. Not because there's anything wrong with the uni, but just because I had the grades.
That was also me. I did Winchester as well.
All the Oxbridge girlies applied to Winchester.
It's pretty.
It is nice. Do you know what? I've actually still never been, and I grew up on the south coast. I wasn't even that far. Yeah, I've been meaning to go. I think I have friends who live there now, but I'll work it out. So obviously we've just had a lovely 5-ish minutes being like, everything was lovely, like health bad, but people good. And that just being quite a lovely thing, really. You just had like close-knit groups and, you know, Cambridge did the best that they could. Obviously, not all of the degree was in person. I'm guessing not all of it was smooth, as we've also touched on. So did you encounter any obstacles during your experience at uni? Did you overcome them? And if so, how?
Yeah, so I think for me, there were two kind of obstacles at Cambridge, but I think a real turning point for me was my accommodation in my first year. I hadn't been told that if you needed your kind of accessible room year round, you needed to tell them beforehand. I thought it just worked like any other room.
Oh.
And accommodation initially told me that I need to move out of my accessible room into a non-accessible room because of conferences.
Yes, they do that, don't they?
And I was like, that doesn't seem right. And it came up randomly when I was at a gathering where the college disabled students officer was present. And she was immediately like, absolutely not. Resolved it and told me that because it was a disability adjustment that I needed to stay year round, they could charge me for rent over those periods. So she really turned my whole experience around, and I started looking into kind of the law, seeking support from disabled student elders who had that knowledge, and not being afraid to push back for what I needed. So she was really amazing.
So I had reduced rent during both of my degrees because I needed an ensuite. I think the only time I didn't was the second year of my master's, but that's because they offered it and it was already pretty cheap rent because it was further out. But like, people don't know. I've had this conversation with like two or three different people, and like, people at the very least don't know that if you need an ensuite, you can get your rent reduced. If you need to be somewhere year round, they can cover that. Because I think universities just want to save money, to be honest. And, you know, you're going to get more money that way. But if you actually ask for it, it can feel cheeky, which it shouldn't. But if you do ask for it, it's great and it goes a long way.
Newnham had a flat rate of rent for every room, which they did. So if you were low income, you could get a nice room in final year when the room ballot came up. So I didn't have to fight that part, which was really nice. But yeah, at UEA, I had to move rooms after surgery because I couldn't walk very far. And they moved me to a more expensive room opposite my building for the department. And they didn't charge me any extra rent for that.
I'm non-binary, but maybe I should start looking into women's colleges. Yes, I am woman. Ooh, flat rate, nice. So obviously that was coming into uni. I'm guessing that was kind of towards the start because it sounds like that was an in-person thing.
Yeah.
So that would have been your first term. Is that also Michaelmas at Cambridge?
Yes.
Hey, then it changes.
You just have a funky term for the other terms, I think.
Easter and Lent?
Yeah, those are mine.
No, we use Michaelmas, Hilary, and Trinity.
Yeah, silly names.
They're all silly names. Don't worry about Oxbridge. We're doing our own thing. It's weird. But obviously you were in your Easter term, so everyone else's spring term. So February 2020 would have been COVID. That obviously everyone kind of got evacuated pretty quickly, especially from like Oxbridge and unis. What was that like for you?
Well, it kind of aligned with when people were going home for that term anyway. So I was going to see my family and I had my meeting with my lovely director of studies, Emma, and I was like, this COVID thing seems a bit scary. Like, do you know what's going to happen next term? And she was like, I don't know. I don't think I can tell you that. And I was like, fair, you know what? Why would you know? And obviously she couldn't predict that like a week later we were told you should probably get out and go home. I mean, the main issue for me then was I left my laptop charger at uni and I had to pay for a new one. It was tragic.
Was it an expensive one?
£40.
Oof.
No, now I have 2 laptop chargers, but you know. But other than that, it was pretty fine that year. I guess I should mention that my lovely tutor, who's an angel, Delphine Morday, if you get her at Newnham, you've won. She and Emma conspired together to proactively offer me an adjustment that year. So in the Easter, I guess, summer term,
yeah,
there was the option to not sit exams for certain reasons. Like if you had a disability or if you were really anxious or for some reason, you had to like apply for it. But they'd seen how stressed I was about my mum and working from home for that period because I wasn't sure how I'd cope with it. I always worked in kind of libraries and things like that for my own sake. And they both came to me by email and were like, we think you shouldn't sit exams. We have the paperwork already. Please, can you say yes?
Oh, that's amazing. So at this point, you had your autism diagnosis and the nerve pain as well. So there was some adjustments that could be done, but you know, this was pre everything kicking off with Crohn's.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
I was just vaguely ill throughout my undergrad.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that they did that for you. And you told me it really helped, right?
It was so helpful because I was so worried. My mum's a pharmacy tech, but she was in a hospital that was still going, obviously during COVID, and she was still going on to wards and dispensing medicine. So it was really scary.
It was one of the bigger London hospitals as well, right?
Yeah, one at Bethlem, which is a mental health hospital, and obviously you can't just kick everyone out.
Yeah.
So she was still going in, and there were still outpatients coming in as well for medicines. So I was very nervous. But luckily she didn't get anything, and throughout the whole first 2 years, it was crazy.
That's nothing short of a small miracle by the sounds. Like,
yeah.
Wow. Good for her. That's very nice to hear, actually. Because when we talk about, you know, elite universities, autism, COVID, and like people working in healthcare settings, that normally isn't a very nice formulation. And I'm aware, like, because again, we had a chat before this. I'm aware your time through uni wasn't completely smooth, but the fact that there has been a silver lining to all of this just sounds, I mean, feel free to correct me if there is just like more that went wrong, but it does sound like the best you could have got out of the circumstances.
I really think so. I think I kind of won a lottery at my undergrad with the college combination tutors, director of studies, a department that, whilst they were not the most organized, were just all genuinely nice people. And so we're trying their best within a system that wasn't necessarily built for access. So I did get really lucky in that regard. I think the biggest challenge was when we had to talk to the central uni about exam adjustments in my final year. The department in their organization, I believe, based on conversation, I could be wrong, they missed like a filing deadline to say that they wanted to keep the exams online.
Oh.
So the university forced them to have their first in-person exams in 2 years. And I was terrified being high risk and knowing that when I masked and was anxious, I tended to have panic attacks. So I was like, I don't think I could do that safely for me. And the department was really supportive, and so was the college. But I had to have like an AMA, which the acronym has changed what it means within that now, but it's basically like more intense version of adjustments that like extra time and things like that. I needed like a ton of evidence, and it was really hard to get. But because the college and department backed me, and my GP in London, who's never dealt with Cambridge, who were clueless, bless them, I sent them a list of bullet points of things they had to include for me to get it. And it was really silly to them because it was like, could you confirm in writing that COVID won't go away? So postponing my exams would be silly. And they were like, you need that? And I was like, yeah, I do need that.
Oh my goodness.
But thankfully, because of that, the central committee did accept it. So I did get lucky there as well. I only knew what to say because of disabled students who'd done it before and shared their experiences with me.
That's great. So was that at your college, or was that the SU? Or just something else entirely?
Disabled students was the central disabled students campaign.
Oh, and that was linked to your SU?
Yes.
Okay, cool. The thing that always surprises me about exam adjustments, particularly the Russell Group and especially Oxbridge, is how clueless they are. Because, like, feel free, like, if you saw this too, I did my master's at Oxford in linguistics. You did a BA in archaeology. Both are quite niche subjects.
Yes.
And I look at 95% of my friends and colleagues and wonderful people. It's like, oh, you're neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And some of them realize, some of them don't. But I think at some point especially in like that, I don't want to say like elite education, but they're called like the ancients, quote unquote, elite universities. You have to hyper focus so hard on your topic because it's so intense that, you know, that tends to attract neurodivergent folk who are just incredibly impassioned and can keep up with it.
Definitely.
And so I always find it so funny when they're like, oh, but like, what about this? And like accommodating for neurodivergence, and oh, that sounds hard. It's like, isn't that most of your people? Like disproportionately.
I think there's a survivorship bias in there of like, I suffered, you should also suffer. But my department itself wasn't like that.
Good.
They were just very like, they struggled to comprehend that if someone didn't ask for something, they might actually need it still. So they used Zoom to start with, and it didn't have captions until like 2021, 22. And so I asked them to switch and said, you should switch for everyone. So there's captions for everyone. And they were like, but you're the only person who's asked for it. And I was like, yeah, but I'm not the only one who could benefit. And I think a lot of people would take the fact that they won the big battle around hybrid access and not necessarily push for them to then switch platform for access. And people struggled to get their head around that concept that not everyone was as loud as I was. But overall, good people. I just had to encourage a lot of students to be like, so I know it sounds really silly that I've been trying for this and they don't get it, but if you ask, they'll actually be chill.
Yeah, I that's why I really enjoyed doing student rep work, because we had a lecture theatre that just straight up didn't have tables. And it was like, hey guys, I know that you're sick of not having tables, and like there is an Equality Act reason we need these tables, because like one of my mates had a spinal condition. But it was also like, can we all say that we would like tables, please? Please, please, pretty please, and maybe they'll do it. And do you know what? It worked. It took longer than I hoped, but it did work. And that's 99% of student voice.
Yeah.
But I mean, the other thing I want to add before we move on is, bless your department, no one told me explicitly is a very autistic response. Like, I don't know who. It's Autism Awareness Week. I feel like we should be aware of this. Like, as we record this. But like, honestly, that just made me chuckle. I know it shouldn't. But I mean, you're laughing too. It's okay. But
Yeah.
that is, yeah.
Some of them did get the message. So Emma, bless her, I sent content notes guidance around. I got the department to approve to send it around, suggesting what they could do with an anticipatory thing. And she was like one of the only professors who did it. And it was adorable. She put her content notes on her bones course for bones. And I was like, oh, I love you, Emma. um, but she put so much detail into them and thought into them. And it does raise the bar for everyone else. Like now students know that that's something they can ask for and should expect their professors to have ready. So I loved her as like a little guiding light. And I hope that more people since then have actually included them as well.
Absolutely. And like, especially in, I guess, archaeology, and my bachelor's was in literature. I know there's been a debate going on about, do we need to do content warnings for like bones in archaeology? And like for me, it was literature. It's like literature has suffering and friction. That is just part of the experience of the canon. And we had a film module in second year. They made us watch Hunger, which is based on the hunger strikes during the Troubles. And it is, no one could sit through it. It was one of the most harrowing films I've ever seen. Only watch it if you have a fortified stomach and just like, you know what you're getting into. And they put no content warnings on it. And it was like, we needed you to experience this as art. And it was like, no, we're scarred. Like, this is like showing an 8-year-old Watership Down. Like,
I think it made sense because the osteology community already have kind of prep for things like that. Like, it's just in conversations when you're in the handling room, like she'll warn you if there's going to be like tissue on bones or if it's like child skeletons, because that can be really upsetting for people, just anyone.
yeah.
So I think it was already natural for her to like content note for it. So her putting a content note for bones does sound really silly, but it was actually like, there's lots of handling of bones in this course. If you'd still like to learn without handling as much, talk to me and I'll see what I can do. So it was quite sweet.
Yeah, I mean, for context, I didn't mean like it is a silly thing. I know that there was that debate.
Yes.
And like, especially among, I guess, more of like the political right. And
I just thought I should defend Emma's honor because I love her.
oh, yes, please. That sounds amazing. Yeah. There's nothing to defend. You're okay. This is a safe space. But that's like really, really positive. I always, especially with Oxbridge, it's always nice to hear good experiences because I know what it's been like for others. I know what it was like for myself. And obviously uni wasn't a walk in the park for you, but that does make me very happy. And we're going to continue with the happy, because I'm going to ask you about your societies. Were there any... Oh, actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to ask you about UEA. And
yes,
actually more positive experiences. Like when you came to me, Cambridge was obviously amazing, like relative to like global pandemic and what they could do and you being at home. But then you actually came to me with higher praise for UEA, which I didn't realize was quite possible. So obviously you had two very different experiences. You had the BA in archaeology and the MA with the long title. I'm going to say, so that looking at the intro, it was the art of Africa, Oceania, and oh my goodness, which continent was it? Was it Asia? Americas, thank you. Oh, but you did those. And I'm going to change the question a little bit if you're okay with that. I think it's kind of part of what you've prepped anyway, what the experience were like between the two universities and what that was like for you. And also whether there were any really positive experiences that helped you to complete those degrees.
Yeah, I actually asked you to add a question to this, your usual questions, to be like, can I talk about nice stuff?
Yes.
Which I feel like is a rarity amongst disabled student experiences, which is why I wanted to say it, because like, if these guys can do it, so can everyone.
I'm having such a nice break with just the negativity. I'm so happy today. Like, not that, sorry, before we continue, not that I'm not, like, we need to hear those bad stories. And it's part of my story, it's part of many other people's stories. And I'm not trying to invalidate that. And I still want to hear them. And I think it's important that they're shared. But also, especially when you hear disabled students just experiencing nice things, it shows you what could be. And so it sets that bar like internally, and the fact that you know that it's happening is just very, very heartwarming. That's what I mean by that. Just to add that context.
No,
so,
don't worry.
Go ahead.
I knew what you meant.
I just want to make it very, very clear.
But yes, I think at UEA, the systems at the university itself were designed to be more caring in the first place. Like, everyone got 7-day self-certified extensions for anything. They didn't even have to put a reason in the box. Like, it asked you if it was required, but you could have just put, didn't feel like it, watched too much TV. Like, it was, you just automatically got approved.
Oh, York had that until like 21. Yeah.
Yeah, which was new to me, because Cambridge, you had to submit something to the formal central committee if you wanted an extension. And it could not be more than 2 weeks. So they also had a process that they simplified the evidence. So if you were disabled already, that and had submitted evidence for that, you could always have the automatic 30-day extension. And that was fine. Like, you put it in, but you'd automatically be approved without having to upload evidence, which is really cool. And then beyond that, if you needed a longer extension, which I did with surgery, I spoke to the wellbeing advisor and I was like, instead of submitting everything slightly late, I'd rather just skip this one that's coming up in February and do it in the summer before the dissertation. And he was like, that makes perfect sense. And I was like, oh, amazing. Someone wants to do something that makes sense for me. And a process was already built in that once you lapsed the 30-day window, you're automatically given like a new deadline. And it was like 6 months later. So I submitted it early for my extension by submitting it 4 months late. It was really nice. I just spent the whole time there. I mean, even my parents as well, they were like, why are these people being nice? Like, I spent the whole time thinking I would have had to take a year out at Cambridge if I needed this surgery. It would just not have worked, even with the loveliest people there.
Yeah.
They just couldn't work with the central system like that. But the central system here was made to do that. And my wellbeing advisor, Liam, bless him, he was lovely, and he was always really shocked that he didn't have to fight my department for me. I'd be like, oh, my department supports us, and he'd be like, oh, really? Do you need me to send an email? And I'd be like, no, they're fine.
Was it quite a small faculty as well?
Yes, so everyone there was lovely. There's kind of 2 teaching staff per kind of continent area. So there's like 6 teaching staff and then some admin people. And when I told my tutor, George, like, I was like, I've got my Crohn's diagnosis and I'm having surgery in a month, he was like, oh, we have faculty meeting like tomorrow. Do you want me to just tell everyone? Which would sound intense in any other faculty, but it was like he told everyone that needed to know at the same time, so I didn't have to do it. It was amazing. And like the next day, there was like a different session, and all the different staff members came up to me to be like, we're there for you. We can work around surgery no matter what. Anything happens, we're there. You will finish this degree. It's fine. And I get teary-eyed just thinking about it, because like they sent me all the emails after surgery when it had gone worse than I thought it had, and I was going to need more time and I wouldn't be there for the first set of lectures of the next term. And they were like, no, you should rest. Don't focus on work. We'll be here when you get back. And like they offered like one-to-one catch-ups if I wanted it, but I didn't have to take them and things like that. And I like, it was just nice to be told that and actually believe that it was possible and that they wanted it. It was really lovely. And especially afterwards when I apologized for being disorganized, and Karen, one of the lecturers, was like, no, it's actually more impressive that you did it at all. And I was like, I've never had that said.
So when you said repeating that year at Cambridge, it made me think like, even as systems work, and I'm not saying this is true for Cambridge, I'm just saying this is what I've kind of seen, is that even if the systems work with the faculties in the moment and with the people, stuff like, I know intermission at Cambridge is getting ragged on at the moment because it's been a bit of a negative experience for some people, especially who can't go home for whatever reason. And I know that it has been seen to be a bit of a messy process that I know people at Cambridge are working towards, just because this is the kind of stuff I stay in the loop on. And I hope it gets better. And I think it should be a resource that is available, but I am also glad that you avoided it, because you don't know what's behind that door sometimes. And the fact that you didn't have to like worry about your masters and they did everything preemptively. Just because you've mentioned it like in passing in this episode, did you have surgery during both of your degrees?
No, just the masters.
Okay.
I had surgery before my undergrad, but they were like day surgeries with a 2-week recovery. I was in there for like 7 hours for the surgery during my masters. It was rough.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's very, very different. You're considering PhDs at the moment, right?
Yeah, and I would go back to either department. They're both lovely. And it was really nice when I was talking to George again. I was like, I know I was a mess during the dissertation. He was like, no, I'd love to have you back. And I was like, oh.
That's so sweet. So you'd be doing like Peruvian bits and bobs in the Andes, weren't you? Yeah.
Disability in the Andes.
Genuinely super interesting topic. If you have an article or something you want to chuck in the description of the show, especially with the like pottery you showed me, I think it's a great opportunity to dig into someone's special interest and also learn about disability. Because you showed me briefly during our intro call and it was genuinely so cool. I was looking at like, oh my god, this pot has like a prosthetic arm. What? Like this is like however many 100 years old. It's amazing.
It's really cool. I love sharing it with people.
How old was that pot?
It was from about like 300 to 500 CE.
That's awesome. Right. We should be continuing with the happy again. This is such a nice episode. Obviously, I've worked with Disabled Students UK. I did the Disabled Students Survey. And I did that episode with them. And we got in the weeds and we were like, everything, like, not everything sucks. Things are improving. But fundamentally, we're still not hearing universally positive responses or where things should be.
And it's so slow, the progression.
It is. And some of it's receding because of COVID. Quote unquote ending, the provision ending. So this is just really refreshing. We're going to continue with the happy. We're going to ask about clubs and societies. Were there any clubs, societies or initiatives that made a significant positive difference to your experience of higher education, either unis?
I didn't do much during the masters. I spent a lot of time in bed, and that was positive, I guess. But yeah, there was no time aside from work, sleep, and friends. But that was fun anyway. But at Cambridge, I dipped my toe into a lot of things. Like I was the president of the Archaeological Society, the Subject Society. Co-founded a group on decolonizing Cambridge museums, and I was also part of the founding group for Head Up, which works on providing mentoring for disabled young people who are considering higher education. I can give you the link to share with people because they're always looking for mentors.
I want to get involved. This is what I do. That sounds great.
It's great. I did mentoring for 1 year with them, and I did branding, support, and events, stuff like that. And then the Crone stuff happened, and I was like, I can't. But they're a lovely group. So I dipped into like a lot of different things. That's not even all the societies I did. I was like on the Sign Language Society committee and things like that. But I found it really positive and making friends, especially like being autistic. And I missed a year of year 10 whilst I was at school. So I did have kind of friends and people who got me. So it was really nice to do all those extracurriculars and find people who liked them and liked me. And I also found like my topic for my undergrad dis through Decolonized Cambridge Museums, which was also positive. We started with like a negative story, but then we found during it there was a positive story that hadn't been really told about the first Indigenous curator in Cambridge, if not all of the UK, and he was working in the 1940s. I can send you a link to the blog I did. But it was things like that where like you got to make a positive change and trying to bring some of the focus back onto him and his work in the Sami community beyond some of the negative colonial stuff that was there. Like it was a nice kind of restorative justice moment that I really enjoyed being a part of during my time there.
Yeah, I did. Very, very, very quick tangent. I used to work so I went to Jesus College, which has the big venue, the new venue, and I worked there and I saw a really, really cool talk about repatriation for the Bodleian collection.
They're Ben in bronze.
No, Pitt Rivers.
Oh.
And they were looking at like doing apps and kind of involving the community and like showing them the thought process they have to go into it. Like it was like an app or a web app or something. Like,
this is probably rethinking relationships. I know those people.
Maybe, yeah. It might be. I just saw a talk and I just remember them like making the thing and like they just taken the shrunken heads off display and stuff like that. And I was watching it as a member of staff. The venue was calm and I was like really into it. I was like, this is neat. We're not going to dilly dally, less because I have to back record. Yes. So we will chat about museums later. I'm sure we'll chat another time. Please send me the links to all of these. This is intriguing. So this is a question I ask all of my guests. No is a valid answer. Have you experienced any instances of your disability, neurodivergence proving helpful in a higher education setting?
Yeah, like I don't love anything that makes you feel too superpowery, and I also don't want to make it sound like you've got to get through everything and do well at uni. Like surviving a higher education as a disabled person is enough. Like you did it. That I'm really proud of kind of the resilience that came from past experiences of disability at school. So like I mentioned, when my nerve pain was undiagnosed, I missed almost all of year 10 and still did my GCSEs on time. So I like when I told I had a surgery that would take me out for 6 weeks during the masters, I was like, that's so chill. And then when it became 4 months recovery, I was kind of more like the meme of the dog on fire who was like, this is fine. But I still did it. And I think those past experiences prepared me in a good way. I had like baby's first disability at a time when it was less consequential, which was nice.
Baby's first disability. Sorry, go on.
I also think that like being autistic caused a lot of anxiety, but it was also the same reason I could push past the anxiety.
Yeah.
Like when I was 16, I cold emailed a British Museum curator and I was like, how can I steal your job? And he replied, and it was amazing. But I couldn't go into shops alone at that point. So it was completely different confidence levels. And it also made me want to do public speaking and like talk about what I did in my degrees at conferences and things. And now I can speak publicly on any topic. So I think it ended up being something that both held me back and then pushed me forwards in like a weird push and pull way. But I love the good and the bad that comes with the autism, and I wouldn't change it. And I also wouldn't change the experiences of being ill, even if I would take a cure now. Like those experiences shaped me in good ways, I think.
Yeah, and I think it showed you the community and everyone being there for you as well.
Exactly.
It's again not a great experience in terms of like personal health and circumstances and global pandemic, but you had the people, and I think that should just be so celebrated. A lot of guests bring up hyperfocus as like their big thing, especially if I have autistic guests. Do you find the same thing? Because I know you're very much working in special interest areas.
Yeah, I made my special interest my life, and it's great. But I have a lot of different special interests as they come and go, but this one stays core, and it's fun to work in it.
We'll need to have a special interest chat after this. Alas, I spent too much time playing Pocopia recently. That's been my thing, but we will chat about that later. So obviously today, largely positive experience, actually very refreshing given kind of the circumstances that were also going on at the time. But we both know that there is a way to go for things to improve in higher education, unis, just as a sector in this country. How do you think we can improve the experience of higher education as both individuals and a society?
Yeah, a teaching assistant at my school had always kept saying to me that if we made things better for autistic people, things would just be better for everyone. And I still believe that about kind of all disability stuff, and that we could do so much good by really using the anticipatory duty in the Equality Act to its full potential. Like, I don't have that much to improve in my individual experience, but like through being kind of a student rep and stuff, I saw like how lucky I was at both institutions. I think especially navigating just as a white disabled person versus like disabled peers of color, it was so different. And like that kind of thing doesn't change when we're still relying on kind of individual departments and individual kindness to get us there. Like I got lucky with that. And I think that's what needs to change kind of at the societal and institutional level, like it has been with UEA. Like I heard bad experiences at UEA, but they were still less bad than the worst I heard at Cambridge. And like it makes a difference. And I think kind of at the individual level, like staff can be anticipatory in their own work and raise that bar for everyone, like Emma did. And I don't know, I think raising those expectations, and part of why I wanted to be here is like there's a world where it's not bad and it's not even that hard for people. Like something that the professors at UEA said over and over again was like, this wasn't hard for us to work around. Like it wasn't that big a deal. It's part of our jobs to work around you.
I want to give them a hug. Like, sorry, God.
And just the fact that they can say it's so easy, I hope leaves people thinking that like, yeah, it can be easy actually. You don't need to do a huge lot to make things better.
Yeah, I think it's just so sweet. But I mean, I'm guessing I'm going to bring it down to earth, unfortunately, just because I want to add the note. I'm wondering whether it's because you had small faculties and a higher student staff ratio, which is inherent in Oxbridge just through the tutorial system. And then in UEA, because you were in a niche department. I mean, do you think that was a big contributing factor? Because I can see it being a thing, but I also don't think it excuses action not being taken.
I think it was part of it, but not all of it. It made it a lot easier for them than perhaps someone who had 100 students to work with.
Yeah.
But I knew people at UEA in much larger cohorts who had similar kind of levels of care around them and adapting to them. It's not impossible, and by doing a lot more of that anticipatory stuff, you make it easier to work around people. The fact that hybrid was just part of their life even after COVID, quote unquote, ended, made everything around me easier. And if it was the same in a bigger cohort, it continues that same effect, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're almost close to time, so I'm just gonna go ahead and ask this final question. Thank you so much for coming on today. This has made my day. This is very lovely. So we've covered a lot. Actually, again, I'm going to keep saying this, very positive given the circumstances. But I also know that you appreciate that you were lucky, and this isn't just like oh my God, look at me, it was amazing. And like we're both aware that there's a long way to go. So if we were to take everything from your story and obviously that awareness with it and everything kind of coming together, what is one key takeaway that you would like listeners to remember from your story?
I think that systems can be bad, but people within them can still do so much good. And even when they can't do good, they can shape how it feels to navigate that system. Yeah. Like Emma and Delphine couldn't change everything about Cambridge, but they made it feel better. And that still helps.
Yeah. Lecturers, take note. Go do what you can with the spoons that you have. Anna, thank you so much. This has been a joy. I'm going to wrap up and then I have another interview in 2 minutes. So we're going to deal with that. So HE Enabled is the show all about sharing our experiences of disability, neurodivergence and long-term health conditions in UK higher education. As we are recording this, it is Autism Awareness Week. I know it is a bit of a tricky one for everyone. Not everyone celebrates it. If you do, I hope that you find some solace in the celebrations and the awareness. If you don't, I completely understand why. If you want to support the show and what I do, there is a Patreon link. And if you want to either make a one-off payment or you don't fancy becoming a patron for whatever reason, but you still want to leave a donation, you can also buy me a coffee. There is a link in the episode description. I think that's it for now. Anna, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.